Alrighty, welcome to pre-calculus. We're going to go ahead and start with laws of sine. To understand laws of sine, it's sine of an angle over the angle or over the side across from that angle equal to the sine of another angle over the the side across from that angle, and then it's equal to the sine of c, and then over the side that's across from the angle. You can use these, they're interchangeable, but we use them to find sides and to find angles. Of course, when you're dealing with all of this, this always comes in handy when you're dealing with triangles are not 90 degrees, and that's what the law of sine and law of cosine is. So you have triangles, they're not right angles, they're just other triangles. So there are different ways to solve for this. Example 1, they want us to find side B. So according to this, side B, across from that side is this angle 60 degrees. Whenever you're using the law of sines, you only need two, I would say, proportions. You would need two proportions. And it's the angle over that side. And then for your first proportion, I always make sure it's it has both things. It has both sides and angles. So if I look at B, I'm going to put this on the side here because that's what I need to find. Sine of B over, sine of, I have what B is, sine of 60 over B. So I have one unknown, but for this first one, I have to make sure I have all sides. And if I look here, I have missing parts for every one of these. So if you have missing parts for every one, always look for the angles first. So I'm going to try to see if I can focus on finding the angles first. So if I look at this triangle, I know the sum of all the angles inside the triangle equal 180, sorry. So that means for angle C, it's 180 minus 75 plus 60. If I were to add these and subtract it by 180, I can have my measurement for angle C. Again, we're still trying to look for B, but we can't find B until we have one proportion that includes both angle and side. And it looks like once I solve for C, I'll have both. And that means if I solve for it, angle C equals, I believe it's 45, yep, 45 degrees. So now this is 45, and if I were to use my law of sine, it's the sine of that main angle, which is 45, over the side, over the opposite side. If I draw my arrow, I have 340. Again, it's a word problem, so I just drew it quickly. They're asking you to find the distance here from C to A from Los Angeles to the satellite, I believe. So now, from this point here, as soon as you're done making a proportion, it's the easy part. All you're doing is cross multiplying. So that means the sine of 45 times B, or I just do B times sine of 45, it really doesn't matter, is equal to 340 times the sine of 60. For B, you want to get it by itself, so divide both sides by the sine of 45. You don't have to solve for it just yet. Sine of 45. And if you put in your calculator 340 times sine of 60, solve it out. And then divide by the sine of 45, you end up with a number, and then for here, I guess they want it from the nearest whole number. I'll let you know for your homework if I want it by 10th place or 100th place. But here for B, you get 416 point, etc., which is rounded to 416 miles. Example 2. Here we have, sides and angles. They want us to solve for all three parts. So they want us to solve for B, for A, and also for angle B. So again, when you're trying to solve for any of the missing sides here, I always start with my angles first. It's a lot easier to start that way. Now here, I have 20, I have 25. So it looks like for B, for angle B, all I have to do is 180 and subtract it by the sum of the other two angles, because all three of my angles should equal 180. So if I add that, subtract by 180, I should get my measurement. And when I do that, I end up with 135. So I found out the first one. Two more things. So if they're asking you to solve, that means you're solving for all sides and all angles. All right, now let's go ahead and start our proportions. Let's go ahead and find A. I'm just gonna do A first. So I'm gonna pull here 135. Now, I'm gonna try to solve for lowercase a. So my first proportion has to include both the angle and side. So if I look here, angle B, I have 135 and B, so I have one unknown. A, I have 20 and lowercase a, so I can't use that because I have one unknown. And then C, I have angle 25 and side 80.4. That means I could use that sign, or I could use that proportion. So it's a sine of 25 over the opposite side, which is 80.4. Again, make sure your first proportion includes both angles and side. And on the next one, I'm trying to solve for side A. So I'm gonna look for the opposite angle. So it's a sine of 20 over the opposite side, which is A. After that, cross multiply. A times the sine of 25 is equal to 80.4 times the sine of 20. Get the A by itself. Divide both sides by sine of 25. Again, if you put in your calculator 80.4 times sine of 20 divided by, or 80.4 times sine of 20, solve it out, and then divide that number by sine of 25, you'll end up with 65.1. They don't ask you, they don't specify. I will specify. Now next one. To find B, so I use the law of sine here, and I'm trying to find the other side. I'm also using the law of sine as well. So if I'm using the law of sine, make sure your first proportion includes both of them. You could use a new number, so I have A here being 65.1. I could use side or angle A over side A, but again, I just want to stick with the same sign. I just stick with the same proportion. It makes it less complicated. Your answer could be off by a couple decimals if you use a new one, if you use the A's for your proportion. So I'm sticking with the same one. So it's a sine of 25 over 80.4. And now I'm going to try and find side B. So my angle for side B is sine of 135. That's what I had to find here. Divided by opposite side, which is B. From this point here, cross multiply. So now, B times the sine of 25 is equal to 80.4 times the sine of 135. To get B by itself, divide both sides by a sine of 25, and you end up with a number that is about 134.5. It's going to round an average there, and that's finding all three of your missing parts there. So it really isn't simple, just understand the law of sine. It's the angle over the opposite side. Bye-bye.